Well, good evening. This is Wednesday, the most exciting day of the week. And I'm excited that this is the midway part because it is a time to reflect on what we have done on Monday and Tuesday and to look forward on how we can do things better on Thursday and Friday so that we can really begin to influence lives in a powerful way. And I trust that tonight, as you join us, that you're going to be somebody who is inspired in such a way that you can actually share your insights in the comment section on either Facebook or YouTube or whichever way you are tuning in this evening. And I would like to also just extend a very special welcome to our panel this evening. We have Heather from London that is joining us. We have Delani from Johannesburg, South Africa, along with Janine, and Ishmael from Pretoria is also going to be joining us in the panel this evening. So we hope to have all of those people connect and share their insights. I'm certainly looking forward to that. But more importantly, tonight we have the very first member of Map for Life. He joined, can you believe it, in the year 1999. I think Map for Life was 3 days old and he was already using it. And he was doing it in his favorite place, in the Kruger National Park. And if anybody has ever visited South Africa, you will know that is where the big five are. And Peter just loves spending time with the animals. I think maybe he's more comfortable around animals than he is with people, although he's a really good people person as well. So it's great to have Peter talking this evening. But I'm just spending a bit of time talking about the fact that Peter's been part of Map for Life for so many years. And it's because of his engagement with Map for Life over that time, that his ability to follow through on a decision to implement a new habit in his life is unlike anyone else I have met. And so he's going to be sharing with us this evening some fundamentals relating to habits. It's such an important topic, and I'm certainly looking forward to this life-changing topic which Peter has to share with us tonight. So after the short little intro to Peter, sit back, listen to what he has to say, take notes, and after that the panel will be joining me to share their insights.
Good evening, everybody. So wonderful to be able to spend time with you like this. This morning, I did my normal podcast, and because it was the 5th of October, my podcast was based on a verse from Proverbs chapter 5. And the verse that I chose this morning says, "For the Creator sees everything you do, and his eyes are wide open as he observes every single habit you have." And it was as we went through the day and I reflected on this particular proverb and what it really means. I have no doubt that every one of you out there listening to me was born for a purpose that the world cannot do without. I know that the Creator put you in a special place He gifted you with gifts and talents. He gave you dreams and desires. And he is so concerned about what you're doing and how you're going about your purpose, that he is spending time observing how you go about your habits. And are you going about them in the way that you were created to do? I came across a little book the other day called Discipline is Destiny, The Power of Self-Control by Ryan Holiday. And he says to master anything, we must first master ourselves, our emotions, and our actions. Without self-discipline, we're not only failing to meet our full potential, but we jeopardize what we already have, and it will lead us to a life of regret and shame. So I think that it is important, because we hold the key to greatness in our discipline and our daily habits. And I just think that it's a critical part. We met somebody today and we were talking about them on a project that we're working on, and he was quite proud of the fact that he had just completed the 20-day program. And I said, but welcome to the club. But it's not just a 20-day quick fix. I've been doing it for something like 22 years. And I'm learning still every day something new. And I think that it is critical. On Saturday, when I was talking about these things, I shared a couple of ideas from some of the other writers. And I loved what I came across when I picked up some papers this morning. And it was 7 timeless virtues of enlightened living by Robin Sharma, and his book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And his 7 steps were: we need to master your mind. We need to follow our purpose. He then talks about practicing Kaizen, constant and never-ending improvement. And as what I just said before, we need to live with discipline. We need to respect time. And the real secret is selfishly serve others. And we need to embrace the present. Glenn spoke in his introduction, he spoke about investing in ourselves. And he talks about investing in ourselves. And I just thought, as Glenn was talking, I must share with you what happened some 6 years ago. And it was a case of 6 years ago, we decided to invest in ourselves. And we started a course where we took up 40-day challenges. And in other words, for 40 days, we agreed and committed to pursuing a particular goal. I'm quite chuffed to be able to say that we've continued on that journey, that it's over 2,000 days without fail we've done something. I spoke of posting a proverb every day. And it's a case of I've gone from just posting a proverb. I now do a podcast. And today I did my podcast number 479 with a proverb. And it's that sort of commitment and that dedication, it's that discipline that makes a difference. one of the things I spoke about on Saturday was that leaders are readers. And I think that's important, that we get down and we do some reading. And I just really enjoy biographies. And I think when we look at biographies, we see how other people live. We see what they've done. And on Saturday, I spoke about Oscar Chalupsky, the world champion paddle skier. And he wrote a book entitled No Retreat, No Surrender. And when I spoke about it on Saturday, I hadn't finished his book, but I've since finished his book. And I wrote down over 50 lessons that I learned from Oscar. I just thought I'd just touch on a couple of them as I'm with you tonight. And I said one of them, I've got run through very quickly. Discipline is essential, which I've touched on before. He says, make the most of every situation. Never lose focus. And then, how much do you want it? He talks about wanting things so badly that he could taste them. My number 17 was decide what matters most and then do it. And twice going through his story, there were situations where he wanted something so badly that it was a case of he dropped other things. And I loved the way he went about when he had the opportunity of competing in the Olympics. He dropped everything. He gave up a lucrative commission-based income just so he could focus on the Olympics. And then I loved where he says, age is not anything. And he went on to say, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. And that's close to one of my little credos. I certainly believe it's never too late to reinvent yourself. And I believe that we should be in a state of complete reinvention on a regular basis. I think as we go through these things, we wind up that there are moments when we have a choice. And it's how we handle that choice. I had the pleasure last week of attending a breakfast, and at the breakfast was the mighty Bucky's Botha. For those of you from overseas, he's a famous Springbok, and I think in English they'll call him a second row forward. We know him as a lock forward, and he really is one of the tough guys of the Springbok side. But he talks about how he matriculated or finished school, and it was a normal thing with the guys finish school, they head off down to the coast and they have a rage, they call it. And he was looking forward to this rage. But he got a call from the local rugby club to say, hey, but if you want to make the grade as a rugby player, you need to come to the practices. And instead of going down to the coast, he went out and he spoke about how that first night at practice, here he was just no more than a school kid playing against grown men, and how he wound up having both eyebrows split open and needing 6 stitches on each side. But he said for 3 years, that was what toughened him up, and he became the success he was. And I thought of another one of my close friends of mine who had the opportunity, and he was chosen to go on a cricket tour. And he turned the opportunity down because they said they were only taking him because they wanted to give him experience and wanted him to mix with the big boys. And he said, no, I've got more important things to do. And that particular individual, whilst he represented his country, he never made it right to the top. The 2 guys that went in his place went on to play probably close to 100 internationals. But it was a case of having the choice, and he didn't want it as much as anybody else. So we need to we need to have that burning desire to make these habits, turn them into something. I'd just like to finish with a couple of quotes. That Guthler said, "Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least." And Maslow said, "What you can be, you must be. And if you deliberately plan on being less than you are capable of being, then I warn you that you'll be unhappy for the rest of your life." And finally, if you don't know what you love, discovering it is your primary job. Figure it out. Passionately and joyfully seek to discover your highest calling. Read, journal, meditate, contemplate, discuss ideas, take a sabbatical, but you need to do it. Know yourself and know who you are, what you love. And once you've done that, just do it. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Peter. This is an exciting evening, and I trust that our panel has paid attention this evening to the words that you were sharing. And if they've really been paying attention, like the viewers, you will notice that I had a wardrobe change during the session. I see at least one of our panelists noticed that there was a small change. It's not magic. This was a wardrobe change. And the reason I did it was that I actually wanted people to see that there is a Map for Life shirt. And just today, I was walking across to a place where Peter and I and Janine met this morning. And as I was walking along, a total stranger came up to me and said, "Are you Peter?" And I said, "No, but I can introduce you to Peter. And if it wasn't for my Map for Life shirt, I think maybe we would have missed each other." So if you would like yourself a copy, when I say a copy, if you'd like to get yourself a Map for Life t-shirt, let us know, because we would love to tell the world about the importance of having a map for life. We have an exciting panel this evening, and as I mentioned earlier, we have Heather, Delani, Janine, and Ishmael who are going to be joining us. And of course, Peter specifically kept his talk a little bit shorter this evening because he would love to participate in a kind of a round table discussion this evening. And so the panel, I'm going to introduce them one at a time, and I've got one simple little question that I want to ask, and I can see by a show of hands that Heather is the one that really wants to be the first out of the block. And so Heather's going to be telling us just very quickly, what is Map for Life to you, Heather?
An accountability partner. Map for Life has helped me monitor my habits and know where I am every day.
I love that. 30 seconds, beautiful. And I think that's the kind of thing that we need to capture. I'm going to bring someone else in right now, and Heather, so just hang in there. You'll be back in a moment. And I'm going to ask Delani, just to quickly from his side, to answer that same question. What is Map for Life to you, Delani?
For me, Map for Life is the roadmap that takes me from one position to the future destiny of my life.
Fantastic. And this is an exciting moment. You know, we need to, for those of you who don't know, Delani has recently refired himself, and I must just take this opportunity to congratulate you on achieving your graduation with your PhD in leadership. And I might be missing the very specifics of it, but such an example, Delani. Thank you for sharing that story with us. And may all the investment that you've put in over the years really impact the lives of others. Well done. Such a great story to read. And maybe we will post a link to an article about Delani's doctorate that he has just concluded. We're very proud of you. Well done.
Thank you, Glenn.
Let me bring in Janine, also from Johannesburg. She's your neighbor, Delani, so I'm going to bring her in quickly. Janine, tell us, what is Map for Life to you? And you need to just unmute your mic there, just in case, if you can, then we can hear you. Lovely.
So Map for Life is a number of things for me. Definitely accountability partner, a place that challenges me to level up, makes me plan a little bit better, and challenges me to do things that I'm not comfortable with. I step out of my comfort zone a lot more than I've ever done before since my involvement.
This sounds like Map for Life is fertilizer.
It is fertilizer, yes.
Those of you who are listening to the video, I'm going to invite you to actually share with us, or to complete the statement, Map for Life is, and come up with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 words that follows that to describe Map for Life from your perspective. I remember somebody in Durban once saying, Janine, that Map for Life is my Swiss Army knife. It's got all those little bits and pieces, and I just loved that description of it. So I'm going to quickly introduce Ishmael. Janine, we'll see you back in a moment. Ishmael, all the way from Pretoria, you need to just unmute your mic there, and then tell us, from your perspective, what is Map for Life?
Map for Life is a multifaceted tool that helps to finding your tomorrow, your future. What inspired me most with the trend is that it touches in all the different dimensions. Now that we are going online and on cloud and all these things, and it is in line with those who can engage audiovisually, on text, and it's a multifaceted tool. But I wanted to say something else.
Yes.
It reminds me of in the past there was spanner number 13.
Yes, oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's still there. Spanner number 13. I know when I go to my toolbox, that is the one that gets used, doesn't it? I like that analogy. Spanner number 13. Maybe we should put that number on our map somewhere. But of course, it is one of our strategies. Peter will know about that. Team 13. Now you've given me something that I won't be able to sleep with tonight. I'm going to see that spanner, and I'm going to realize it's the perfect tool. So thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm going to bring Peter back in, as well as the full panel tonight, and we're going to have a great session. And I trust that as we go about this evening. Sorry, Janine, you're coming on. There we go. Okay, so we are all on board. I think we can switch off the names for now so that we can see one another. Peter, I know that on my screen you're in the bottom right-hand corner. That's because the most important person in the room sits there. Okay, so we really appreciate what you shared with us tonight. And I'm going to just starting with Heather, just maybe there's some insight that you had that you'd like to share from what Peter was saying earlier. And once we've each just shared very briefly an insight that you've taken from that, we can maybe ask Peter some questions.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, Peter. When you were talking, I was thinking about habits and paradigms and how they kind of like fit in, because to me, the habit, like you said, was something regular, a practice that you're doing all the time. And then a paradigm is sort of like a pattern. And then I was thinking about the subconscious for your paradigm, and how that actually sometimes affects your habits. And I'm going to pose the question now, and you can jot it down for later. So I'm thinking, like, should you change the habit first, or should you try and go back and change your paradigm first so that you can change the habit?
I can see Peter's going to have a long list of questions to answer. But Peter, we'll give you a moment. I'm going to jump straight to Delani because he's sitting right next to you, and I believe in more ways than one. He's literally next door in the sense of the suburb that he lives in. So quite nice to have Delani. What was your insight this evening that you would like to maybe just share, or perhaps a question you'd like to ask Peter that he can chat about?
Peter, I was excited when you started your talk and you raised the issue of God, whichever name people may use, and you said he watches over us in terms of expression of our habits. For me, that's an exciting moment to know that there is somebody who pays attention to me and who looks forward for me to become the best. I then have a comment which you can respond to, which says, as individuals, we are leaders of ourselves, of our families, of our communities. How, as leaders, can we be present like that eye that watches over those that it loves?
Delani, you should have been at our meeting yesterday morning. Tuesday morning we were talking just this kind of language and the importance of father figures in a nation. And it's just amazing how you bring that up right now. Janine was there. In fact, Janine actually organized the session that we had yesterday morning, and I know that she's got another one coming up. So Janine, why don't you just, I know we're stepping a little bit off the topic here, but maybe you can just tell us about that up and coming session, and so that we can make a note of it, and those people watching can also be aware if they're living in this part of the world.
Okay, so there's an economist that has recently written a book. He's a university lecturer in economics, and he's visiting Joburg and Pretoria at the moment. There are a number of meetings that are available. I just need to refer. I wasn't expecting to be talking about it, but on Friday morning at 6:30, just give me 2 seconds.
It's nice to be in a place where you have an opportunity and you got the notes right there at your fingertips. That's fantastic, Janine.
Okay, so on Friday, the 7th of October, at 7:30 in the morning, at Every Nation in Rosebank, he will be speaking about his book. And also at 7 o'clock at Eagle's Nest Lodge in Fourways.
I assume that's going to be in the evening, is it?
Yeah, 7 o'clock in the evening. So 7:30 in the morning at Every Nation in Rosebank, and then at 7 at Eagle's Nest Lodge in Fourways. This is a very eloquent speaker, and he has got some phenomenal ideas about how to change South Africa's economy and to make an alternative economy. And I would really encourage you, if you can, to pop in and visit one of those sessions, because we really enjoyed engaging with him. So I'm sure you would enjoy him as well.
Janine, thanks so much for sharing. I think that's a great thing.
Can I just interrupt? And what was so exciting was yesterday he was introduced to Map for Life for the first time, and you could see that he was blown away by it, and he believes that Map for Life is a methodology that needs to be the foundation for what he's trying to implement in South Africa today, or in Africa today.
And what was interesting is, Peter, you reminded me, he said, he made a statement, he said, is Map for Life ready? And he was literally saying that to each of us that are on screen tonight, but he was also saying it to everybody who is watching this video. Are you ready? If somebody needs you to teach them how to implement a life-changing process that can enable them to discover their purpose, are you ready? And that just made me feel that sense of urgency. And that, I said to Peter, and I haven't done it yet, I said, before I go to bed tonight, my suitcase is going to be packed because I need to be ready. If somebody calls me in Argentina to come and do Map for Life, my bag must be packed. My passport must be ready. I must be fully prepared to deliver that training because all the backup support is there. So this is a message for all of us. Peter, thanks for bringing that to my attention. So Janine, this is your, I just see Dr. Yona from Tanzania. I'm going to put his comment on the screen. Okay, so you guys can at least see what he has to say. And that's exciting to see. And great things are happening in Tanzania, by the way. We are so privileged. Delani, you need to meet Dr. Yona because you can introduce yourself as Dr. Delani now. And he has a PhD in the engineering side, but just such a wonderful mentor. And I have learned so much from him. But Janine, you've been telling us now, you've been advertising for somebody, an event. When I say advertising, that's not entirely true. You're sharing some valuable information so that other people can benefit from a great message. And along with that, I want to remind everyone that is listening tonight that you have a message. That's why you're here. You have a message to deliver, and people need to hear that message. So let's get back on track. Let's get back to the topic of the evening, Janine. What was your insight that you had, or maybe a question that you'd like Peter to address in a moment?
Okay, I really liked what he said about showing up for opportunities, because if you don't show up, you're going to miss out. And very often, something may look like it's not an opportunity, but if you actually attend it, you realize it is an opportunity. And,
so instead of going to party, we need to reprioritize our focus. And the example of Bucky's Buerta kind of just, I think it's going to stay in my mind. And if we just think, when I see everybody's over 21 this evening. When we look at our own lives, I'm sure that there have been times where you have been tempted to party instead of purpose, and you've been distracted by friends, by circumstance, whatever it might be. Maybe that's something we can chat about later on this evening. But Ishmael, welcome to Map for Life, or welcome to the Map Show. It's great to have you join us for the first time. And I trust the way that we try and do this is to keep our responses short and to the point. So what was your insight that you had from Peter's sharing? And is there something that you would like Peter maybe to respond to? Oops, sorry, that was me.
My insight was the repetition, and the fact that habit as a significant element, for me, it also says is preceded by a decision, a moment to say, now I start. But once it's there, it becomes a way of life. And my question would I be correct to say that there eventually a link between your habit and the very first areas of our life, soul, body, and mind? And I suspect that if there is a harmonious connection, then it becomes automated. Thank you.
Great. Peter, I know you've got a whole bunch of questions that have been put out there. Maybe you can just take a look at one of them for now. And
I'm going to take two at the start. I just take that last one, and I'll talk about being automated. I think that's a space we want to get into, and we take brushing our teeth, and is that a habit? But I think that with kids, we've got to teach the kids. We teach the kids how to brush their teeth. And once they've started, they'll never stop brushing their teeth. I think that we need to create those sort of habits in other areas of our lives, so it becomes automatic, and one just doesn't stop to think about it. One just does it. Heather spoke about it as a habit or paradigm. And I think one of the things I jotted down was a question of imagination. We need to use our imagination, and we need to imagine what sort of person we're wanting to create. Where do we want to finish up? And then moving from there, and I think that exercise of those 4 questions: what must I stop doing? What must I start doing? What must I do more of? What must I do less of? And are very critical decisions, and to go through that process, and that then it's a case of just to make it happen. And we spend time debating. We spend time talking about how long does it take for a habit to form. And I think there's certain habits, and I take brushing your teeth. It's a case of some people will never stop brushing their teeth, and so we need to get our habits into that sort of thing. Glenn and I talk about taking sugar in our coffee, and just as one of those little things. And I think it's important to Glenn and I, it's important to stop taking sugar in our coffee. To other people, everything. No, I don't have much coffee, so it's not an issue. But it's things like that. Yes.
Yeah, Peter, you uncovered one of the secrets to habit forming. I don't know if any of you remember what Peter used the example of brushing your teeth. Do any of you remember the first toothpaste that you were given as a child? Heather, do you remember that nice tasting pink toothpaste? Do you remember? I think you probably give it to your grandchildren, and when they're not looking, you take a little bit and you eat that toothpaste because it's so nice.
Yeah.
I think that just when you talked about that, I realized that to train a child to brush their teeth, you give them something that tastes really nice, and you slowly get them to the habit of brushing their teeth. Then you bring in the stuff that's really good, I suppose. And so as you move from being a young child to being an adult, you shift from that nice tasting toothpaste that you could eat all day to the other stuff that is really working. And I wonder, maybe there's something in that when it comes to habit forming. We need to associate some kind of pleasure with it in the early stages. Heather, you've got something to share there. I can see that.
No, I was just thinking of things that we are taught when we were children, like the washing of hands, Peter. That became a habit. We washed our hands, and then this new thing came 3 years ago, and we all realized you've been washing your hands wrong. Now you had to change a habit that you've been doing for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And it didn't matter. The first few times when you were conscious, I'm changing a habit and I'm washing like this and I'm doing all this, then you started changing your habit. But I wonder how many people, as the situation eased, have gone back to the old ways of washing hands. And that's the same thing with habits, isn't it?
Yeah, I just had to put on screen where you're from, Heather, so people understand why you changed the way you washed your hands. I just put that on there quickly.
Glenn, were you washing your hands the way they told us to during this situation? Did you always do like this and really, go through
I,
each finger?
I never changed anything. I continued to build my immune system whenever I had the opportunity. So, of course, I had to use the sanitizer, otherwise I wasn't allowed to go to places. But other than that, I just kept going as normal. I believe that germs are good for you. But Peter, I interjected. Sorry, carry on.
One thing I just wanted to throw in was a question of masks, and which really was one of those where we wore masks for so long, and then suddenly we no longer had to wear a mask. But now we were all reaching for our masks, and you felt half undressed if you didn't have the mask on, and that sort of thing. And that was an interesting little exercise going through there. Yes. The other one I wanted to come back to was Delani. When I spoke about the Creator and how we were created for a purpose, and we had a bit of a discussion, and we spoke about it, and Delani used the word of a father watching over us. And I thought as Delani was talking of a father, I also thought of a headmaster, I thought of a judge. I find, for me personally, it's one of my challenges that I know that I'm going to face the great headmaster one day, the great judge, and I'm going to have to give an account of what I've done with the gifts and talents. And so that's a driving force on my side, that it's working towards satisfying my Father.
I'm sure Delani is listening into the chat. It might be one of those moments in South Africa. We have lots of romantic moments now. At any point in time, the government can decide that it's time for you to have a romantic moment and have 2 hours of candlelight and a nice meal together. So maybe he's having one of those. But Peter, you talked about something really important, and that is that we all became frustrated with that mask that we were wearing. I remember the first mask that I bought had written on the side, "Speak life." and when I think about that mask, we've taken off that physical mask and we've put back on the fake mask, the mask where we pretend to be somebody we're not. And I think that is a far greater danger in terms of purpose, maybe, and things like that. And so it might be a good idea for us to explore this. Maybe somebody can make a note of a future topic, is talking about the masks that we wear as people, so that we can fit into society or engage with other people. Janine, you were with us this morning, and you know Peter very well. But share some of. I think let's make this like one of those coffee chats where we're all talking together. We don't have to butt in. We just butt in because that's what you do at a coffee table.
Sorry, your question for me was?
There's no question. We're just waiting to hear from you.
Okay. So you're putting me on the spot. We had a very, very fantastic coffee this morning. It was a moment of revelations, but we just asked a question and it sent us on a long journey. So but we were talking about purpose and significance, but after significance is surrender, is where we were headed. And surrender is maybe a challenge that all of us need to look at. We're working towards our purpose and our goals and our vision, but are we willing to surrender that to the Lord? I think that's one of the key questions we had this morning.
Yeah,
it's interesting, kind of letting go, isn't it? I mean, sort of realizing, and maybe what Delaney was getting at, what Peter was talking about there just now. Peter, you were saying, you kind of, it's do we actually trust that there is such a father figure, and that we can let go and not try and control everything ourselves. Sometimes I think we become kind of control freaks. But Peter, you were sharing. I just saw some comments coming through on the from people, and I saw what was the one from Dr. Yone. It says that habits demands that decisions are made. Perfect habits lead to perfect performance. And I think it's kind of, this ties in with the idea that habits lead to habitats. I can't recall if you used the word. I know, Ishmael, you were saying, you were talking about repetition. Did you use the word ritual this evening?
I didn't use the word ritual.
Why didn't you talk a bit about that? Because you've used that word before. You've talked about habit stacking and ritual and so on. How does that? Maybe you can just share some sort of example on how you've done that. Because I know Peter's also grabbing those notes that are right next door, but he doesn't have to, because he's been doing this for so long, and he's literally he shared one of the things that he started with over 2,000 times, and just yesterday he told me he was at 487 or somewhere in that vicinity with something new, and so he's been, he started with one thing and added the next and added the next. Just share some of that sort of journey, and at what point are you going to stop?
I don't think I'll ever stop. I spoke specifically of 6 years ago, because it was 6 years ago we started these series of 40-day habits, and every 40 days, I think we actually got it down. We said, no, we're going to use 30 days, and each month we would start a new habit. But instead of trying to implement 12 habits at the beginning of the year, we said we'll take one habit a month, and by the end of the year we would have got 12 habits, and it was that sort of thing. So you were focusing. Hopefully, by the time you got to month 2, habit 1 was ingrained, and you were doing it automatically. And so it went on. But the first one that we started was exercising, and we didn't lay down any minimum criteria, but it was just to do exercise every day. The second one was a case of, from a spiritual point of view, of saying, well, we think it's important that you read your Bible. And the easiest way to do it is just to do this Proverbs exercise. And so that if you're doing that, you're now in the habit of opening the Bible. It then becomes easy to take that and to do a little bit more work on your Bible and so on.
And for those people who don't know, there's the nice thing about that particular approach was that there's actually 31 sections, so you can repeat it every month. And I remember that you used to ask people to share what was their one little verse that they read on that day. I still remember that. And that was 6 years back, and I think there's great value in doing it. And you've also highlighted something really important, Ishmael. Peter's just kind of talking about that idea of incrementally implementing new habits. And the question that was on my mind, and I'm going to ask you. So if you mute your mic, and I hope that you realize that you are on the spot. That's why you're inside the room over here. You're on the spot. And I'm going to ask, we've just had a period of 2 years that everybody is going to talk about, probably like a stuck record for the rest of their life. And maybe even their children and grandchildren are going to talk about it. But what about the new things that we began to do during that period of time? What is there something new that you began to do? Is there a new habit perhaps that you started? Maybe each of you can think about something like, what was your new thing that you began during this 2-year period of inspiration that we had?
Can I?
Yeah, I can hear you.
For me, it was getting out of what I call, I think I'm right to say, is a paralysis analysis. I had, for a number of years, realized that I'm more interested in integrating technology in enhancing what we are doing. And it was during COVID that I qualified as a Google educator, and in the past 2 years, I have tried to implement that with some funding from National Science Week, and I'm looking at making it really what I believe it can do, very impactful, and I'm sure it. Yeah, that's
I wonder how many other people. I wonder how many other people actually took part in some education programs. There were so many kind of things that you could do that were easily accessible and free. And of course, in Map for Life, we actually developed a lot of online material during that time. So we're now ready. All that kind of stuff is behind us. We can get back in front of people. Heather, what was your new habit that you began besides working from home?
My grandson had this great idea that he wanted to give blankets to the homeless, which is not possible over here because you're not allowed to go service the people on the streets because there's places for them to go. Then we thought of the Salvation Army, something that we'll do. He wanted these blankets to be homemade. So out came the crochet hooks, the knitting needles, and he started this blanket drive where he'd get everybody in the family to make these blankets. And at the end of each year, he'd go to a care home and donate the blankets. So that's something we've started and we've continued with it.
Wonderful, Joe.
I like that idea, and it's something that I know that my mother is engaged with as well. Something like that. I was just, Heather, this is so good to hear that you are an expert. I want to invite you to start crocheting blankets in light and dark blue with the world map on them. And anyway, just something to think about. Maybe we can just make dark and light blue squares, and maybe as Map for Life, wherever Map for Life people are, why don't we start making crocheting blankets? I don't know if I can. I'm sure I can learn. I think my mother taught me a long time ago. Start actually doing something like that. Why not? Every day. Yeah.
My mother is listening to this right now, and I'm sure she'll have a design up and ready the next.
I love it. Wonderful. It's so nice to have people that are young in spirit and ignore the fact that that age is creeping on us. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we've got to do, is boot age out of the door. And I love hearing that your mother's engaged every Wednesday evening. That's fantastic. I know Peter's dying to tell us what his habit was. Janine, what is your new habit during this period?
I got a number of new habits, but one of them that I developed during this COVID period was proper sleep patterns, because my sleep patterns were chaos. So I actually, with all the free programs that were available, I actually did a coaching program on sleep, and it changed my life. So, going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time relatively every day has made the world of difference. So that was one of the habits. Another one is every morning I do something to, sort of wake my brain up. So it's I listen to there's a chap called Darroll online. So he's got like a 7 or 8 minute slot every morning that you can listen to. But if you don't listen to it that day, it disappears and you can't listen to it again. So you have to do it every morning, otherwise you're going to miss out.
I love that. I love that. I'm making a mental note of that idea. we're gonna put things up and say to people, if you don't watch it before midnight, it's gone. No, sorry. What time should people be going to bed?
By 10.
So if you don't watch it by 9:30 in the evening, it's gone. It's over. Delani, I'm not too sure if you were listening. We were each sharing a new habit that we began during the 2 years of vacation or sabbatical that most of us were given. But while you're thinking about that, Peter, I'm sure you've got a new habit that was born during this time.
Before I say something, I'm just a little concerned. I'm looking at the time, and if I
Yes.
disappear, you know that the good doctor is taking me out. I did speak on Saturday about I had 6 things that I had to do on a daily basis, and it was a time of solitude. It was a physical exercise. It was social, interacting with people. It was being creative. It was being a spectator, watching something, watching sport or watching a movie. And finally, it was a case of learning. So I would journal on a daily basis on each one of those 6 habits. And I found that was a very good discipline.
Well, Peter, before the power goes out there for you and Delani, let me just say thank you so much for sharing us with us this evening. So if you do disappear, at least have that. But I think what you've done is you've sown seed that has got each of us thinking about something. And I just felt that when we go into the future, let's not be like everyone else out there who's talking about all the problems and challenges and different things that were associated with this period. But let's rather say, you know something, in that time, this is what happened in my life. I started something new. I began a business. I started a new habit. My life is better because of that. And if we start sharing that message, I think we can inspire other people to follow the same thing and begin to speak positively. So Delani, what is your habit? And then what we'll do is just quickly, each of you can just say one last thing and we can close out this evening.
For me, Glenn, the amazing thing in the past 2 years, I have created a network of people with whom I share my morning readings. I read the Bible every morning, and then I write a paragraph of my reflection, and I share it widely in the WhatsApp group, and it's growing amazingly. And that is going to continue for the rest of my life.
Fantastic. So for the next 40 years, Delani, we're going to write that down. For the next 40 years, this is going to happen. And what an inspiring thing to do. Let's go and begin to write again. I think that's powerful. Heather, just quickly your closing comments, and then Ishmael and Janine and Peter, and we'll wrap tonight up.
Peter spoke about a good habit being reading. But I just want to take that further. Some of us just love reading and not doing. So read and do as a new habit.
What about redo? Redo. Okay, redo. Right, Ishmael, a last word from you.
Every month, I'll have learned about a new app on education. Integration, technology, education. Every month there is something that I learn.
Well, that's something that we can all aspire to do. Janine, a last word from you.
Yeah, just if you've got a dream, just start. Just start on the little things that you need to do every day to get there. Just get going. It's going to blow your mind.
I popped up something on the screen there, Janine, which ties in with what Delani was saying. And isn't it amazing that you can read 5 chapters 3 times a day which isn't a lot. So breakfast time, lunchtime, and supper time, and you read the entire Bible in 3 months. Isn't that amazing? I think that's worth taking note of.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got digressed a bit. Delani, maybe for you, then Peter, and we will call that a night. A last word, Delani.
I want to say thank you very much, Peter, and for your shares. And I'm sure that we can have a lot of re-looking at our habits and creating a pattern or a rhythm of how we live consciously. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Peter, last word from you. And
I think, just see what Dr. Yona had to say. I read through the Bible every year, and there are various programs that you can do, and I think it's an important exercise. So that's something I do every year. And
that's a great place to stop, and you know exactly what happened. It's time for our romantic evening. And so for all of those of you in South Africa or in Africa and abroad, I think there's going to come a time, I was saying to my family the other day, there's going to come a time where we create a habit of switching off all power between the time of 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. to enjoy family time. And that's something that we have learned during the last couple of years, is the value of spending time together. You know, at first you don't know what to say, but at a later stage you suddenly find it's actually nice not to be interrupted by digital devices and all these other things. So guys, thank you so much for joining tonight. It's been wonderful having you. Let's have coffee like this, or whatever it is that you drink tonight. I'm drinking my favorite, which is my body loves water. So maybe we can have this as our watering hole, our oasis, once a week on a Wednesday. But of course, any night of the week and any time of day, if you want to participate in something of this nature, let me know. Let's set it up. Let's have a chat, and let's publish the content of what we've talked about. Have a wonderful evening further, and to everyone that's watching, every Wednesday night at same time, same place, we'll see you then. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.